Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, interesting stuff going on in the middleweight division, and I've been hearing a lot of people talk about this, and I even had a couple of people ask me this. Somebody actually asked me this on one of the lives that I did recently for that Nicaragua fight, and I had no clue what the hell they were talking about, so I looked into it for myself and looked into it for my own, and apparently your main man, lines only. Jermall Charlo, he wants to move from 160 to 168. Now, I find this very interesting due to the fact that he really hasn't done anything at 160, and there really is no reason for him to go to 168 at this particular time. I think, he'd be best suited to at least get a quality win before he leaves the middweight division. And we'll get into that later on, but let's get into the quotes, because he's out here calling out David Benavidez, which, if he moves up, it could be an interesting fight, an easy fight to make because it's an in-house fight. It's a PBC. Both of them are Al Heyman fighters, so it's pretty makes sense. But here's what Charlo said verbatim about moving to 168. He said, I quote, 168, here I come. I've got the approval. If you don't get that rematch with Dave Benavidez, I'll take it. You saw what happened to Eric Sliver when my brother Jermall fought him. He was dumb as fuck. We're going to get it, and we're going to show him. Let's keep talking. Let them keep talking shit. I'm going to come to 168 and fuck the whole game up, said Jermall Charlo. Okay. And then, any other quotes? No, that's really it. Now, I found this interesting, and let's go over to the Ring Magazine middleweight rankings because, okay, we know that Canelo and Golovkin, they're going to go their own route. They're going to fight each other. As you would expect, it's the biggest money fight for those two in the division. DAZN seems really insistent upon making that fight happen, so they're gonna fight. All right. You got guys in the division like Chris Eubank Jr., who's also a fellow PBC Al Heyman guy. He's calling him out. I think that'd be a great fight. I would favor Jermall Charlo 60-40 just because I think he's a better fighter than Chris Eubank Jr. But I would give Chris Eubank Jr. a great shot at beating Jermall Charlo. Based on the athleticism, the work rate, his ability to carry stamina into the later rounds, I think it will want to be in a good fight. You got Sergey Derevyanchenko, probably one of the most respected, incredible middleweights out there. He's still in the mix. You got Ryota Murata, another guy. So there's definitely options. I mean, even if you wanted to pick from the bottom of the barrel, you got a guy like Rob Brandt, who's just lying in the weeds. And also, you got a guy that I'm very high on that I've spoken about many times on this channel. My main man, Demetrius Andrade. Now, this is a fight between 2 and 3, between two American fighters, two guys that are in need of a big fight. And there has been efforts, there have been talks and efforts from DAZN, Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing, and the people that are behind the career of Andrade to try to get Charlo in the ring. And, I believe the offer was $7 million. He hasn't taken it. We've heard nothing of it from the Charlo side of things. And now you got him talking about moving to 168. So I'm gonna put it to you like this, and I'm just gonna paint it in basic layman's terms for everybody out here watching this video. Okay, if he leaves 160, the middleweight division, without fighting Demetrius Andrade, it's a clear duck. It's clear as day. It's a duck. And you could add him. You could add him to this guy and this guy. As guys that didn't want no smoke with this guy. All right, this guy is in the division. He's got a belt, as you can see. It's a WBO right there. He's a world mother-loving champion. Okay, these two don't want no smoke with him. They don't know how to speak English anytime this guy's name is mentioned. And now this guy wants to move to 168, and he's talking about fighting Dave Benavidez. So Jermall Charlo, I think he's got a lot of unfinished business in the middleweight division because, as far as I see it, his resume is whack. Let's call a spade a spade. Ever since Jermall Charlo moved up to 160, his whole middleweight run has been whack. I like Jermall Charlo. I think he's a good fighter, but his 160, his middleweight run hasn't been as good and hasn't been as inspiring as what he was doing at 154. Because let's look at it, right? Let's go to his box rank. Okay, we got Jermall Charlo here. Okay, now look, he beat he goes on an impressive little run. He beats Austin Trout, stops Julian Williams. Okay. Then he makes his debut against Centeno. He fights Hugo Centeno Jr. Okay, fights him, destroys him in like a round or two. Then he fights Matthew Korov in a fight that a lot of people thought he lost, and he didn't get him a rematch. He didn't avenge it and beat him in more dominant fashion. Then he had another fight with the contender winner, Brandon Adams. A guy that I thought that was a good win, but let's have it right. Brandon Adams is no creme de la creme fighter. He's a smaller fighter coming up to middleweight. So was that really impressive? How impressive was that really? He went the full 12 with him. And then Dennis Hogan, another guy who earlier in 2019 had a great fight with Jaime Munguia, in which I thought he got robbed, and the majority in the boxing world thought he got robbed. And he folded up Dennis Hogan in pretty solid fashion. So his middleweight resume is whack. I hate to say it, but there's no other way to say it. His middleweight resume is whack. And I think before he moves up, he should consider fighting Demetrius Andrade, because he's a world champion. Try to unify those belts and really stick your flag in the ground as one of the top dogs in the division. Because anything you say about your run at middleweight is all just hearsay. You didn't really prove that you were the best. So fight, him, or fight Derevyanchenko. I think the Derevyanchenko fight, if he's able to beat him and beat him soundly, could be used as good leverage towards getting a fight with potentially a Golovkin, who I know Charlo has been on record saying in the past that he's very interested in fighting him. So, there's a lot of things I think he needs a lot of fish to fry at 160 before he even talks about 168. Now, is he big enough to fight at 168? Yeah, he's got the height, the size, the frame for the division. And who knows, maybe at 168 he might even be a more devastating fighter. But when we look at the landscape at 168, okay, we're talking about, some interesting fights for him. We're talking about guys like Dave Benavidez, as he's called out. Now, I'll tell you this. If you're going to go to 168, Charlo, fight this dude right here. I'm sick of this dude. I'm sick of this dude being shoved down our throats. The guy's a hype job, and he proved it in his last fight. And he's going to be called that until he gives John Ryder a rematch. Fight this dude and knock him out. It's an easy way to a world title. I think that'd be a good fight for him. You got this fight right here when my man Daniel Jacobs, when you were talking all that trash to Daniel Jacobs, and he pulled up on you and he said, I'm touching M's. You ain't even touched the M yet. So there's that fight there. I think that's a fight that I would actually favor him to win, because Jacobs, as he's a good fighter, respectable, credible opponent, but I think he's a bit overrated. Good fighter, but I think he's a bit overrated by the boxing media and the boxing fans. A lot of that has to do with his story and what he's came back from, and God bless him, he has. But I would favor Charlo in that fight, so that's a good fight there. You got Caleb Plant, that'd be a good fight. So there's definitely some big time matchups at 168 for you, but I just don't think you should be moving up or talking about moving up to 168 when you haven't even really done anything at 160. The biggest fight you had at 160, people thought you lost, and that was Matthew Korobov. So do something at 160 before you think of moving to 168. Otherwise, you're just going to be looked at by many people in the sport, boxing fans, analysts, pundits. You'll be looked at as a talented fighter who is ultimately, at this point in time, a hype job. A guy that's in-ring achievements don't match the hype and notoriety that maybe the boxing media and the boxing pundits have bestowed upon him. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Those are my thoughts on Jermall Charlo moving up to 168. You guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. What do you think Jermall Charlo should do with his career, and who would you like to see him next? I'll be very interested to hear what you guys have to say in the comments down below. Make sure you take the time to subscribe, and like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniels. Until next time, take care, guys.